I'm just queuing up the live stream. It'll just be a moment.
Yep, I just got the pop-up.
Yeah. Then we should be good.
Yep. Okay, great. Great. Thank you so much, Ellen. Good morning still. I want to welcome you to the MAPC Executive Committee meeting for Wednesday, January 17th, 2024. This meeting is being conducted remotely via Zoom video conference consistent with Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023. This includes an extension until March 31st, 2025 of the remote meeting provisions of former Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020. I can't even believe how long that's been, to provide public access to the meeting while limiting the potential for abuse of video conferencing technology. Members of the public may view these proceedings at www.youtube.com/user/MAPC Metro Boston. And with that, I will call the meeting to order at 11:36 a.m. And I will begin by calling the roll. As a reminder, because we haven't done it yet this year in 2024, everything's a roll call because we're remote, and I just ask you to bear with me for any mispronunciations and just give me a little grace. But if everyone could come off mute, there we go. Imai.
Present.
Colette.
Present.
Kurt.
Present.
Keith.
Present.
Karen. Jen Constable. Tom Daniel.
Present.
John DePriest. Tom
Galagani. Yep. Present.
I don't know why all the L's and the G's really got me there. Okay. Mo Handel.
Here.
Sagoon. Jared. Tabor.
I'm here.
Angie.
Here.
Gina. Steve Olenoff.
Here.
Courtney Rainey. Vandana. Claire.
Here.
Sam.
Here.
Steve Silvera.
Here.
Juan. Elaine. And Erin. Here. Great. Thank you so much. First up on the agenda is the approval of minutes from November 15th, 2023. I will pause first to see if there's any questions, comments, or concerns. And I'm not seeing any. And with that, I will entertain a motion to accept those minutes.
Moved.
Motion made
Second.
by Tabor. Second made by Imai. You guys are very quick today. Thank you very much. Roll call is required.
Erin, could we defer that to the consent
yes.
agenda, please?
Yes, we can. Remind me how that goes again.
Saves a few roll calls. We will consider it to be moved and seconded, and it will, if the makers and seconder of that motion will allow for it to be deferred to the consent agenda.
Great. I see a thumbs up from our seconder. Tabor?
Fine by me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Yes, thank you for the reminder. Okay. And with that, next up is the Treasurer's Report, the financial statement of September, October, November 2023. Treasurer Sam, take it away.
Thank you, President Aaron, and hello to everybody. Sam Seidel, Treasurer. You have three income statements going back to September through October into November. Part of the reason you have that many at one time is that we canceled the December meeting, so they got kind of backed up. We would have done one or two in the December meeting. But what we decided to do instead of going through each month, month by month, is we're going to focus on November. If you have questions about September or October, please feel free to raise them. If I can't answer them, I'll kick them over to Anna for her wisdom and insight on those matters. But basically what we're going to do is look at November and look at year to date, give you a sense of where we are right now. Having said all that, the first thing I'll do is look back at September and October just to point out the overhead rate, which I mention all the time, is kind of my way of taking the temperature. How's everything going? Where are we? Is the patient too hot? Is the patient too cold? How's the overall sense of things? And you'll notice just in the overhead rates of September into October and then into November that there is a great deal of fluctuation. Let's see, in September, we were up at 128.3, then we went down to 105.4, 126.6 in November. In talking to Anna, her response, and I agree, overhead rates fluctuate. Things change month to month, and this is just a way of keeping track. Having said all that, we're going to now focus in on November, look at these numbers. And again, we're going to start with that overhead rate of 126%. And that is higher than our approved rate of 123%, but it still means in a year-to-date sense that we're below where we want to be overall. And on that, I just want to make a couple of notes. Basically, the overhead rate is the relationship between our total administrative expenses and then our direct labor, the stuff we're billing for, the actual hours we're computing. Administrative expenses are indirect expenses. Direct labor is stuff we bill directly for. We want to get that overhead rate kind of right on target, because we don't want to be too hot or too cold. We want to be right where we want to be. There are a couple of things to note about that. We've had a few vacant positions. So there's been a position in legal that has just been filled, and that will be an indirect expense. That's going to raise our cumulative indirect expenditures up, and then that's going to bring our overhead rate up so we can land at the end of the year where we want to be. And then we also have a vacancy in data services. The director of data services is also a fairly senior position that's going to be filled. Now, the data services position is not completely indirect. Some of that billing is direct labor on the part of that person, whoever will fill that job. But again, that's going to adjust our overhead rate upwards over the course of the year, and that's something we want to see. We also have just the fact that in the months of September and October, people actually don't take a lot of paid time off. Paid time off, again, is an indirect expense. That's something that goes on the administrative side of the books. And people tend to be working hard, particularly in the month of October, where the weather's getting colder and it's a long month. So there's a lot of billable hours in there. The only other thing I'd point out in the November income statement is that our increase to fund balance for the year is at $200,000+. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that. One is these positions that haven't been filled yet, and so that money then goes into the increase in fund balance, and also just that interest rates have been rather favorable. So any money that we've had parked in a bank account has been making us a little bit extra money. And you'll see if you look at the monthly total for the month of November, our interest income, we budgeted $16,000. That was our expectation of where we'd be. We ended up at $26,000. So interest rates actually have been favorable to MAPC. The only other thing I would add is that the mid-year budget process is kicking off. I know Anna and her team are already digging into that. And the Finance Committee will be meeting fairly soon to review the mid-year numbers, get a sense of where we are halfway through the year, and then we'll come back to you with a revised mid-year budget to, as everybody likes to say, to true up those numbers and make them work for where we are right now. That concludes the Treasurer's report. I entertain any questions, comments, thoughts, and if not, we could move this to the consent agenda.
Can I just make a comment, Mark or Sam?
Yes.
So I think, Sam, some of the points you made are really important, that there is fluctuation month to month, but now that we're in November, we've got a little bit of a track record to help us see a more smooth trajectory. And I think what you're saying is we're getting closer to our target overhead rate for the year, which is really one of the major things that you focus on. So I think that point was very well made, and I certainly wanted to underscore that, and also touch on the point that what you're seeing in interest rates, we are seeing in interest rates too. So it's definitely it's something that I think all municipalities, if we have cash on hand, it's a really nice thing right now to have that extra windfall. So just wanted to underscore we're seeing the same things. I think the report is great, and no concerns, but I just wanted to say, I think we need to focus on the year-to-date number more than the month-to-month or each month's individual number. So thanks for the report.
Absolutely. Thank you, Colette. Thank you very much. Tabor.
Sam, so just one question. I know that you mentioned the interest rate certainly makes a difference for us, but September and November look pretty similar in the base income for interest, but the extra funds to the bottom line, fund balance. But why is it in October at 110? That seems like it seems like a fairly high 1 month. Was there something specific that happened in October that, because it's only 29,000 of that was the interest?
Oh, right. Yeah. No, I think that's a fair question. I
think Anna can help with
Yeah,
that.
I can
I'm
help
gonna
with that.
pull Anna into that one.
Yes. So that has to do again with the fact that our overhead rate was low in the month of October. So that drives the surplus up. So anytime our overhead rate is, lower than the direct labor in comparison to the direct labor, you're going to see a surplus there.
I see. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. And then just one other comment. I don't know if this is intentional or if it's a mistake, but on the very left-hand side, actual overhead rate for July.
Tabor, the one thing you told me was to always check the details, and I actually asked Anna about this.
I'm just looking at that.
It is November. It
It should say
okay.
November. Apologize for that. Yeah.
All right. I think it's the same on the other ones too.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, we were.
I'm going to have to put a note in Anna's personnel file.
I know.
have no
I got
choice,
to.
but
I know.
Thanks, Tabor.
Seeing nothing else, I'm going to hand this back to President Aaron, if that's okay.
Great. And as long as there's no, don't mind my office phone ringing, as long as, Mark, remind me, can it just go on the consent agenda? There's no motion.
I think we have someone to move it and second it.
Okay.
And say as part of that motion to put it to the consent agenda.
Okay. I will entertain a motion for that at this time.
Moved.
Second.
Thank you, Claire, for the motion, and the second to Mo. Really appreciate that, to move it to the consent agenda. Great. All right, next up, Executive Director's Report. Mark, take it away.
So you'll see that, we've had a somewhat new system over the past few months, which I hope you appreciate. We have trimmed down the Executive Director's Report. It's usually around 9 or 10 pages now. It used to be 25 or 30 pages. I do want to assure members of the board that that is not because we are doing less work at MAPC. It is just because Lizzie and I and Amanda have been a little more, how shall we say it, forceful perhaps with directors and managers to really select 2 or somewhere between 2 and 4 of their major accomplishments over the course of the past month, or in this case, 2 months, and to focus on those in the report. And I hope that provides you with still not a short document, but at least a little more reasonable. So this document covers basically mid-November to mid-January, because we did not have a meeting in the month of December. I will note a few things in arts and culture. Big accomplishment in Salem to have the Moving Spirit of Love statues and artwork approved. I think you all know, or many of you know, that we have designed an arts procurement process that individual municipalities can use to do works of art in their communities, procured in accordance with Chapter 30B. This has always been a little bit of a tense and uncertain area, and now more and more communities are implementing it. Salem has implemented it. The selection process is complete. The mayor has signed off, and the artist and community representatives are now working on implementation and installing the artwork. And I'm very much looking forward to a dedication sometime later this year. Tom, I don't know when, maybe you do, but I think it'll be in 2024.
Yeah, it should be, it'll be before October.
Great, wonderful. That's fabulous.
Maybe not August, so maybe pencil in September.
Okay.
October's not busy in Salem, right?
Exactly. We need to do it before October.
All right. In clean energy, I'm very pleased about the Empower grant that we've received from the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center. This is a joint project. It's the second phase of a joint project with the MAPC, the Boston Housing Authority, and ACE, Alternatives for Community and Environment. It's focused not actually on the standard public housing stock, but on the use of vouchers, Section 8 and state vouchers, voucher holders being landlords being encouraged to participate in the program and to receive funding for energy-related and climate-related improvements to their rental properties. So we're very excited to be doing that work. We've been doing a lot of work with housing authorities. 5 years ago, we did nothing with housing authorities. Now we have a tremendous amount of activity with housing authorities. We are working with them on digital equity issues, as referenced later in the report, throughout the region, doing digital equity plans, helping individual housing authorities to actually make sure that they are connected and their residents are trained, if necessary. Usually it isn't necessary, but in some cases it is. We are also working with the housing authority on the Empower project that I just mentioned regarding certificate holders. And furthermore, we are anticipating, fingers crossed, not 100% sure yet, that we'll be filing a climate pollution reduction grant with several municipalities and housing authorities to try and get money from the federal government for the purpose of climate mitigation in federally funded public housing authority buildings. You all know, I think, that we succeeded in getting the administration to include $150 million in the housing bond bill for climate-related renovations at state-funded public housing. We see this as sort of a little bit of an alternative to that to assist with the federally funded public housing. I would also note, you can dig into the work of the Grid Modernization Advisory Council, very important issues, and some of the specific recommendations that they are making. Our own Jeremy Koo, who is Assistant Director of the Clean Energy Department, is our representative, and therefore your representative, to the Grid Modernization Advisory Council, GMAC, which is not the way that Chevys get financed, for those of you who may remember that the acronym is reused. In community engagement, we had a great sub-regional chairs lunch. We try to do that twice every year. We also completed the language access project, although it's the completion of a project that develops a guide, but now we hope that guide will be implemented by communities throughout the region. And also the community engagement and housing teams did a tremendous amount of work to complete the Everett Housing Production Plan. That has been a challenging project, both from a financing perspective, getting the money to do it, dealing with some very difficult issues with HUD that were mostly procedural issues, and also finding the time, both on our schedule and Everett's schedule, to get it done. It is now done, and it is awaiting approval at HLC. Data services. I think that many of you participated in the release of the Homes for Profit research. That got an enormous amount of attention, mostly good, not 100%, but mostly good, and a lot of press coverage. We're continuing to get calls from reporters about that work. I'm very proud of the work that Jessie and her team, most particularly Jessie Partridge, that is, and Alexa DeRosa in the data services department, with assistance from lots of other folks in the department and at the agency, did for concluding that excellent work. Two big grants have been filed by Martin and the Environment Department. One that I am pretty confident is going to get funded is for assessing the impacts of flooding on environmental justice communities. That went to EOEA and DCR. We do have to await formal approval, but we were asked to apply. So we think that we're going to get that one. A more competitive but very important one is with our national partners, NOAA, on the federal level, to increase our staff capacity to support local and regional coastal resilience planning and project work. If this comes through, we will actually be able to put a staff person full-time for a period of years on coastal resilience issues for the 24 communities in our region that face the Atlantic Ocean. And some of you may remember when Sam Cleaves, who is now retired, used to be our Mass Bays staff person. He always did other things, but he did that. Since that time, when the Mass Bays program sort of wrapped up, or at least that phase of it wrapped up, we haven't really been able to devote the attention we want. We've done some project by project, but that we really need to do on coastal resilience issues. And we're really hopeful that NOAA will fund this grant and enable us to increase our staff capacity in that regard. A lot of great individual projects in land use. They're listed. I don't think I need to go through them all, but tremendous amount of work has been going on in all three divisions of that department. For those of you who may not know, we're now in a situation where, well, Mark Rassicott isn't new. Mark, I don't think is on this call because he's on well-deserved vacation today. But really, all three of the division chiefs are relatively new. The senior one now, who's been with us for a couple of years, is Angela Brown, Economic Development. Andrea Harris-Long is now about a half year, I think, into working as the Chief of Housing and Neighborhood Development. And we just promoted Josh Fiala to be the director of what we call the Generalists Division, that does a lot of work on zoning and other things that are a little more kind of in the standard purview of professional planning work, not specifically housing or economic development. I think we have a fabulous team in land use right now, and the work they're conducting that's emphasized in the report is evidence of that. I want to congratulate Rosemary Valinsky and the entire municipal collaboration team with support from several other departments for the annual Shannon Grant Community Safety Summit that took place at BU on December 15th. It was a fabulous gathering. It is always energizing when we have the safety summit, when we have the tournament, and when we have the day in the State House, to see the young people participating in the program, participating in our events, and helping us with our work and giving us the guidance that we actually need to run those programs. And that was the case at the Community Safety Summit on the 15th of December. So big kudos there. I have been going on for a while, so I think that I am going to probably call it a day there. I didn't quite get to transportation, public health, and a few others. Strategic planning, Eric's going to cover that with a presentation shortly. I think next month, maybe I'll start at the end and go toward the beginning so that I don't shortchange the departments that happen to start with letters later in the alphabet. Any questions? Glad to answer.
Great, thank you, Mark. Any questions for Mark? You covered it. Oh, Keith, go ahead.
Hi, thanks. Keith Bergman in Concord and past president. And thanks, Mark, as always, for the great report and the great work that's being done. One of the an issue that's come up at a recent MAGIC sub-region meeting and at the legislative committee last week as well, just to pass along. I know a lot of the communities are dealing with implementing MBTA community zoning, the Section 3A zoning. And there's one of the things that seems to be missing is a go-to place to find out what all the other communities are doing, where they are in the process, who's going for inclusionary zoning at above 10%, at maybe 15 or 20%. And just where those communities are. And I wonder if there is role that MAPC could play, and even providing an unofficial
that
scorecard
Jesse-
of where we are, because we can't find anything officially. Thanks.
Jesse Partridge and Andrea Harris Long are working on that. I don't think we will be ranking or rating what each community does, but I do think we will be summarizing it and providing it kind of as a cheat sheet for other communities to use, so that if you see that another community is doing something that you're thinking of doing, or if you see that you think that they might have figured out a way to wrestle with a problem that you are having, then you'll be able to have communication with them. Right now, we have only the rapid transit communities, all 12 of them complied. We expect the DHCD or HLC will be approving that compliance. We can't be 100% sure, but we anticipate it. I think you know that one of them, the town of Milton, opponents have gone to the ballot. The vote in town meeting was actually it was very overwhelming, but there was a lot of debate. But at the end of the day, they had a good, strong vote. But the opponents are still bringing it to the ballot to try and overturn it sometime in the month of February. We don't know how that's going to go. And then a few other communities, including some on this screen, I believe, have actually complied a year ahead of time. So we're going to put all those together. I think it's still south of 20. This year, it's a much bigger number that need to comply by the end of December. And we will be working with as many of them as we can. And we're going to try and, as each one finishes, we're going to try and add it onto this list. I will check with Jesse and Andrea, neither of whom are here today, to see when they think this might become available.
Thanks so much, Mark. I appreciate that effort. And you could probably just by reaching out to all of the planning departments in the affected communities, they could tell you where they are in the process, and that's just as important. In Concord, where I am, we've written the zoning bylaw. It's on the warrant. There's a map. The town meeting will be in April, but we can tell you what the proposal is right now, what we're going after, and that might be useful information for people to share generally. So
I'll
thanks.
pass that along
so
to
much.
Jesse and to Andrea. I think Colette has a question.
Not a question. I just wanted to touch on some of the things that Keith had mentioned. Our regional collaborative, and I was in that meeting, had an informal conversation session where we did exactly what you're looking for, Keith, where we shared where we were, what our challenges were, and what our path forward was. It was super informative, but I'll say there is no one size fits even two people. That we all have different paths, different challenges, and different approaches to it, and it was really eye-opening to see what the variation was. So that's it's to a certain extent those discussions have happened informally and were really helpful. So perhaps our coordinators already have that information. I know we have a web page saying, what is it we have to do? What's our strategy? Where are we? And where we're going in the future? But it was a really helpful informal meeting. I don't know, Mai, if you wanted to add anything to that.
No, that was a great summary. I agree with you, Colette.
Colette, do you mean our Metro West Regional Collaborative or the Home Consortium?
Yeah, the collaborative.
Collaborative. Okay, very good.
Yeah.
We will check with all our coordinators as well to see if there are other informal structures that they have set up, and we'll try and incorporate that into our overall work.
Great. Any other questions for Mark? Not seeing any. That's okay. Okay, next up, and of course I can't find my agenda, but next up, I know by heart, is going to be the legislative update. So I think we're doing general updates first, and then some specific items. So I'm going to call on Legislative Committee Chair and Past President Keith to start us off.
Thanks so much, President Aaron. It's Past President Keith here, and thanks for. And we'll continue the discussion initially on housing, just to say it's occupying an awful lot of our time and effort. The legislative committee spent a good deal of time last week talking about the governor's housing bond bill, the Affordable Homes Act, which gets its first hearing, as you probably know, tomorrow at from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. in Gardner Auditorium. Many of us are testifying. I'll probably need to do it virtually, but but appreciate very much the effort that MAPC and Matt Walsh and the Aloha Coalition have done, and others in organizing the effort to have a big turnout for that important hearing tomorrow on a $4 billion with a B housing bond bill containing some important provisions in there, including real estate transfer fee and other things that are of great importance to many of our communities. So that's great. The committee took a vote, which you'll hear more about, recommending that the executive committee approve 2 bills dealing with fentanyl test strips, and we'll hear more about that. But I'll just, for now, turn it over to our Government Affairs Director, Leah Robbins, to get us through the rest of the agenda. Thanks so much, Leah.
Thanks, Keith. And I'm so glad to hear you mention the housing hearing tomorrow. It's going to be a big one. It starts tomorrow at 10. I encourage folks to watch, where we'll be sharing updates and tweeting about it throughout the day too. And it's the first of, we expect several hearings. So if you're not able to testify tomorrow, don't worry, there'll be plenty of other opportunities. And we're definitely working with other members of our legislative committee. And if you are also interested in submitting testimony, please let us know. We'd love to help if that is something that is of use. We're also really excited for the State of the Commonwealth tonight to hear. I think the governor has been sort of previewing some of those pieces. And then we're expecting the fiscal 25 budget proposal from the administration probably sometime next week. So we are really excited to be talking about the work that we've been doing with DLTA and with our federal and state grant assistance program that the legislature gave us last year. To show some of that down payment work. And we'll be looking for your help too in sort of telling that story to legislators. We've also, I'm going to turn over to Georgia in a second to talk about the legislation we passed, but really it feels like this is a time of gearing up and having lots and lots of conversations with our delegation, because not only is the housing bill moving, but Joint Rule 10 is right around the corner, that date in February when all of the committees need to make determinations on the bill. So we've been having lots of conversations with staff to make sure we're amplifying the positions that this body has taken up. So hoping to talk with you about 2 more in just a second. Georgia, I will pass it to you to talk a little bit about some of our public health work that has led to us bringing these bills forward and the bills themselves.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Georgia Barlow. I'm also on the government affairs team and excited to talk to you today about 2 bills that we see as really critical components of supporting communities and municipalities as we work through the challenges that the opioid epidemic and substance use disorder is really posing in our communities. As you likely all know, Massachusetts has seen a rise of fatal overdoses in the past few years, spurred largely by the increase of fentanyl in the drug supply. And our public health team has been working with communities as they receive opioid settlement dollars to understand what it could look like to put some really holistic harm reduction strategies in place and understand ways that we can support community members and get people, ensure that there's safety nets provided. One of the challenges that we've run into is that there are some laws on the books that still make some of these harm reduction strategies illegal. One of them being that currently something like fentanyl test strips or drug test strips are considered drug paraphernalia and illegal. These are critically seen as a harm reduction strategy and are legal in currently 36 states. They're essentially strips of paper that allow you to understand the substance that people may be ingesting or utilizing. It's seen as a really easy way to understand if the drug supply may be contaminated and is used both by people who may be using drugs, but also critically by police departments, by public health teams to understand what the drug supply looks like in their communities. Right now, we've been working with some public health departments who would like the opportunity to utilize these to help people understand what that drug supply looks like in Massachusetts, and who don't feel comfortable purchasing these harm reduction pieces because of the legal challenges that they are afraid they may face. We've heard there, for example, the Newton Police Department has a supply of fentanyl testing strips that they don't feel comfortable utilizing or sharing with the community to test the drug supply because they worry that doing so will make it, will put them in a position where they are doing something illegal. So these two bills, Senate Bill 926 and Senate Bill 1081, change those definitions to make those drug testing strips and other harm reduction strategies legal, and change some of those definitions so that municipalities, nonprofits, other public health departments can utilize these tools that are really critical in addressing substance use disorder and overdose prevention, and make it so that they can actually bring them into the communities and ensure people can access them. So I mentioned before, there are already 36 states where these are legal. They're sold in, you can buy, the public can buy them in CVS and Walmart in other states. And we think that Massachusetts should also, residents should also have the opportunity to utilize them. So last week, the legislative committee did vote to endorse, bring these two bills to executive committee. We're happy to answer any questions that you may have about the two bills.
Great. Any questions, comments? Not seeing any. Okay. So would you like to take, let's do one at a time. Is that okay? So I will, sorry, I have a lot of screens open. Okay. Or if it's okay with everyone, are we okay with just approving? I guess I'm looking for a motion to approve the endorsement as recommended from the legislative committee. Is it okay with
So
everyone?
moved.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you, Keith. Keith made that motion and Mo made the second. Again, the executive committee is, the motion is that the executive committee is voting to approve the recommendation from the legislative committee, which is the endorsement of S926, an act relative to fentanyl test strips, and S1081, an act improving access to fentanyl test strips and other drug checking equipment. Everyone good with that? I don't believe this is qualifies as a we're going to just do a vote now, if that's okay.
Yeah, no, we do. Yeah, you have to do a separate vote on
Words are escaping me today, so we're all good. All right, so roll call is required. If everyone could come off mute, I would appreciate it. Here we go. Imai.
Aye.
Colette.
Aye.
Kurt.
Aye.
Keith.
Aye.
Karen, I think is absent. Jen.
Aye.
Tom. Daniel.
Hey.
John. Tom G. or Thomas, sorry. Okay. Mo.
Aye.
Sagoon. Jared. You're on mute if you're voting, Jared.
Aye.
Okay, great.
Sorry,
Thank you.
subway noise.
No, it's fine. It's hard to tell if you're trying to get off mute or just talking to yourself. Okay, Angie.
Aye.
Gina. Steve Olenoff.
Aye.
Courtney. Vandana.
Abstain.
Claire.
Aye.
Sam.
Aye.
Steve Silvera.
Aye.
Elaine. Aaron. Aye. So the motion passes with one abstention from Vandana. So thank you, Legislative Committee. Thank you, Government Affairs team. Excellent work as always. And I want to just say I thank you for all your hard work and kind of all the work that got us to this place. Mark, did you want to say something? You just popped off mute.
No, unusually I did not. No.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you so much. All right, next up on the agenda, again, I cannot find my, found it. All right. I have like 100 tabs open on my computer. All right, next up on the agenda is the strategic plan update from Eric Ho, Director of Strategic Initiatives. Eric, take it away.
Thanks, Aaron. Thanks, Aaron. Happy New Year, everybody. Just wanted to provide a brief update. I'm going to pull up some slides in a moment to talk about the survey results. We did 2 surveys at the end, or the beginning of winter, I guess. One was just focused on staff, and then the second one was to the executive committee. I'm mostly going to focus on kind of the big level takeaways from the executive committee, but I will point out a couple places where there were some differences of emphasis or even differences of opinion between the two surveys. So let me see if I can find this. Folks can see that? Yes, great. Okay, let's see if I can get it big. There we go. All right. And as you remember, the survey was put together by our consultants just down the street, TDC. This happened early November, kind of in between the holiday period. We did receive 20 responses, but 5 of which didn't complete kind of the future-looking portion of the survey, but they did answer all the questions, focused on kind of how we're doing now, based on our priorities and the work that we do. And you obviously know us well. 50% have been with us for a decade or longer, 20% 5 to 10 years, and then the last quarter 1 to 5 years. Generally, I think really positive in terms of that we have been hewing to the values we developed as part of the regional plan and our current strategic priorities that was developed during the last strategic plan. Definitely heard some feedback that climate change and even more regional emphasis in our project work is something that we should focus on as we move ahead. Basically, people do think that we are effectively supporting our municipal stakeholders, state agency, and legislatures, kind of as our core folks who we work with. And then this last one, where we started to see a little bit of difference both amongst different members of the executive committee and differences between staff and executive committee members, is kind of the role that we play with community level organizations and advocacy groups. I know from a lot of the staff responses really wanted, looking for more guidance in terms of how we better operationalize the focus on racial equity. And then I think there was less response or more questions about that from executive committee. I think many people on the executive committee were very supportive of focusing on, say, EJ populations, vulnerable populations, but there were a few folks that think we're overemphasizing those types of populations in the work. I guess no real surprise here in terms of like kind of the big areas to focus on, and basically continue to focus on these biggest challenges that we're facing: climate, housing, transportation. Then there's the equity in vulnerable communities, the population in terms of who we serve. Generally felt more regional focus in the works, more multi-municipal projects, trying to build that influence and really be recognized for a lot of the innovative work we do. And again, kind of like part of that theme in terms of just less strong agreement in terms of some of the work with CBOs and marginalized voices, with who we emphasize in terms of the work. Interestingly, I think there are a number of comments I wanted to share on the relationship with residents. Clearly we're here to help improve the region for the residents and workers who live here. But just in terms of recognizing kind of the limits of how we can work and who we can work with, it's more focused on who are making the decisions. That's with the local leaders, community leaders, and state leaders and the legislature, but trying to, improve the quality of life for people who live here basically through the work we do, just not as a direct, but more indirect through municipal and state government, were some themes that we heard. We asked about project selection in terms of when it comes time to decide what projects to fund, which projects not to fund. Should we be doing any rethinking in terms of where we emphasize how we select projects? Also, kind of the pretty sizable majority felt that we should be doing some larger projects that span multiple boundaries, and being a little bit more proactive in terms of helping to scope projects as opposed to reacting to solicitations directly from communities. And then I think this next one is a little bit of where we need to strike a balance between in terms of working with each of the 101 every 5 years, but that's depending on how we move towards bigger projects. That's going to be a tension point in terms of it's going to be hard to do both things. So I think just wanted to point out that that's something we're going to have to navigate. Just a couple more things I wanted to share. Again, we talked about kind of the core central folks who we work with, and here's kind of the overall ranking of where the executive committee members felt that we should be focused our time on. And then just have a couple slides that just kind of open-ended responses. Want to let people just take a look at this in terms of why we exist, what's kind of our unique value add in the metropolitan Boston, and we're really talking about bringing people together, bringing that regional lens, and really providing some leadership in that climate, housing, equity, and transportation spaces are things that we definitely heard loud and clear from the leaders on the executive committee. One more slide here, just to, again, this is that same open response in terms of what we should be doing, what should be our focus. Really appreciate feedback that we received through this. And then just I want to wrap up today kind of where we're at. We are entering kind of the final, what we're calling the research phase. We'll be doing some interviews and focus groups with both municipal chief elected officials and planning directors, state agency staff and legislatures, and some of our partners amongst the community-based organization and advocacy world. And then we're also working with TDC to come up with a draft, an updated mission, vision, values, and goals that really are going to help kind of guide and focus the next 3 to 5 years of work. So we'll be bringing that back to both the advisory committee staff and the executive committee in the near future for continuing the conversation. So I'm going to stop sharing, but just wanted to kind of check in, share the results of the survey, and let you know kind of what's on tap for the next month or so.
Eric, I wonder if you could send me that slideshow so that I can share it with the executive committee, including the members who are not here today.
Yes, absolutely.
Great. And great suggestion, Mark. Any questions for Eric?
So I would, if I could, Erin, is it okay if I make a comment?
Sure.
So we're about halfway through the strategic planning process now, and I need to be frank, we need your help. Members of the executive committee actually need to be engaged in this effort. We are going to be convening a number of focus groups. It's not exactly an executive committee focus group, but many of you will be called upon because of the hats you wear during your day, during your work day, to participate. If you have taken the survey but not completed the future of MAPC section, I need you to work with Eric to figure out a way to complete that section. And if you are one of the, I think, only 5 members who haven't completed the survey at all, we need you to do that. I actually have no idea. I'm not looking at the surveys and I don't see who completed them. That's a secret. But I do suspect that, it is possible that some of the ex officio members may feel less comfortable completing the survey. I do want to be clear with you that we do not triangulate down to individual people. We are only interested in the overall results. So I would like to encourage the ex officio and gubernatorial as well as municipal members to complete the survey. If you have 2 or 3 things about the work or future of MAPC that are always kind of top of mind, but you never find a forum in which to convey them, I would really ask you, sort of from the bottom of my heart, if you'll permit me, to find 10 or 15 minutes to sit down at your screen and ideally write them out and send them to us, or call Eric or Lizzie or me and talk us through your points. Everyone on this board works with MAPC staff members on things outside of being a member of the executive committee. And you are thought leaders in the region. And sort of the one time every 5 years when the executive committee as our board has a real responsibility to help to direct the future of the agency is through the strategic planning process. And Eric and Lizzie and I and Angela, who's overseeing the DEIA, actually almost everything I say is relevant to the DEIA as well. We need your actual engagement in this effort. The advisory committee members are doing a great job, but they are only a few members of the executive committee. I think maybe 4 or 5. And everyone else's voice is really critical. So I'll just leave it there and hope that you all respond.
Hey, Eric, is there, do you know who hasn't participated? I'm not looking to call those people out right now. Is it possible to send individual emails to those people? Because as Mark was talking, I'm like, am I one of those people? Did I not do it? I just feel like when it went, I believe I did, but when it went out, I feel like there's a lot of surveys that go out, and I'm just
no, and this one was over kind of the holiday season too, so I definitely had to do a little bit of nudging. So sorry if I was annoying, but it's up to our consultant. Actually knows who completed it and who didn't complete it. So I can ask the consultant to email folks and basically reopen it if that makes sense.
I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah.
And I think everyone heard Mark in your request and message, and we can all kind of take the time to do it if we haven't. Yeah, Colette.
So I definitely want at least half a gold star. I know that I did the survey. I don't remember there being a future of MAPC section. I don't remember that distinctly as being a different section, so I don't know if I did that section or not. So again, if you're giving people their nudges, if there's a missing section, we're going to need a nudge on that too, because I think in my mind I've done it, I've filed it away, I moved on to the next survey.
All right. Yeah, I'll definitely talk to our consultants about that.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay. If there's no other questions or comments on that, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the DEIA update. Angela Howard, take it away.
Hi, good afternoon and happy new year to everyone. It's great to see you here this afternoon. Wanted to give you an exciting update, at least I think it's exciting, update about our DEI initiative and the assessment that we're undergoing. And I'm going to share my screen. I just have one slide to share. Can everyone see that? Awesome. So this is our progress dashboard that we get from our consultants, JJR Consulting and Bijou Consulting Group. We get it every month and where we are. So I chose the last one to give you an overview of like where we've been and sort of highlight some key areas and what's coming up next. So when we started our journey back last year, it started with our team building initiatives and our, and just meeting with I have biweekly check-ins with the consulting team, and we work on our plan and our timeline. And so that's ongoing. That's an ongoing effort. But the things that we've completed so far are we've engaged some of the stakeholders here at MAPC, some of our internal folks here. For those who may be a little unclear, the strategic plan is more outwardly facing and how we and our DEI assessment is looking at us an introspective view of how we operate here and from a diversity lens. So we went from stakeholder engagement to gathering information where they asked for our personnel policies, everything from like our policies, practices, procedures, anything that we had codified, documented, they wanted a copy of. And then we went from that stage. We've also completed the interviewee selection process, and then for the SWOT analysis, and then we had SWOT interviews. So unlike the strategic plan process, the consulting group that we're working with has decided to have individual conversations for their survey. So they have a survey that they use, and they met with employees individually to have those conversations. And it was a unique experience. We had about 58 employees in total who did that, which represents about 69% of our total workforce. So, that I thought that was a fairly good showing overall. That also included meeting with some former employees. So, so we were able to reach out. They wanted to reach out to some former employees to talk about their experience at MAPC. So during throughout the SWOT analysis, as what it's called, there was a thematic analysis that was conducted based upon the SWOT interviews, and there were 16 things that came out of that. And I'm just gonna highlight like the thematic analysis because there's 16 of them. So but I just want to give you an insight of some of the things that we're looking at that employees spoke about. It communication and transparency, representation and engagement, equity in grant and contract awards, staff inclusion and input, promotion and advancement, external communication versus internal actions, equity strategy implementation, assessment and racial impact, equity framework and decision-making, resource allocation for inequities, professional development and capacity building, accessibility and accommodations, recruitment, retention and promotion, organizational culture and structure, wage and economic considerations, and networking and recruitment. So these are those 16 items were the thematic, were included in the thematic analysis. And then from that thematic analysis, the consultants were able to share some initial findings. And those initial findings were shared with Lizzie, Mark, And they were also shared with TDC. And so there's the sharing of information that actually goes back and forth between TDC and JJR and Bijou, because the goal is to align our DEI strategy with the overall strategic plan of the agency. And to bring us forward in December, the consultants had 2 engagement sessions with the staff, one with managers and one with staff. They also had a meeting with Lizzie and a Mark separately. And this was actually to go over the thematic analysis of those 16 themes that the SWOT interviews sort of yielded, and to talk about some remedies, some recommendations, and get their ideas about recommendations. So it was 2 awesome engagement sessions that happened in the month of December. And so that sort of brings us up to where we are right now. What's highlighted in yellow is they're working on the findings and recommendations right now. And excuse me, some upcoming activities for January and February, we're going to work on completing the draft of the comprehensive report findings and the recommendations. And again, we are working in tandem with TDC. We share those findings and recommendations, and we also are looking forward to getting our complete and final report, which we hope to get in February. So really exciting. We've done some really great things. We've gotten some really good feedback, and looking forward to seeing the final results. And that's where we are. Like I said, we get this dashboard every month from them, so we're able to follow along where they are in the process. So yeah, so that's where we are in a nutshell. And just to I'm unable to share some of the depth that Eric is able to share, because we promised, in order to get candid feedback from employees, we promised to keep that information anonymous. So I actually don't have access to the raw data, because we promised employees that their information will be kept confidential, which is so crucial to getting clear and honest feedback from employees. So I'm unable to share sort of those nuggets that employees have shared throughout the process, but from what I hear, those nuggets are very informative. So looking forward to hearing and seeing sort of the how those are folded into the final report. So I'm going to stop sharing and open it up to if anyone has any questions or thoughts about the process, about what we're doing. I know, like I said, Eric to add to that, Eric, Ben and I meet weekly to talk about our respective initiatives, and to make sure, where there are opportunities for cross-pollination, where to sharing information, to make sure that both of our processes are aligning, and just to generally share information about what's going on. When we started this, our goal was to make sure that both of these processes worked together to improve both our DEI initiatives and our strategic plan. So he and I work together in tandem to make sure that we keep this on track. So any questions for me or comments or? All right, well, I'm going to hand it back over to you, Madam President.
Thanks, Angela. I maybe I'm in the minority here, but I don't believe so. I love an attractive consultant dashboard. I don't know what it is. It's probably the nerd in me, but I just love a good visual dashboard. Yes.
I can tell you I asked for that specifically because that's how my mind works as well. It's like I need to see things, and I need to see like the progress of, to be able to to follow along. So I thought that that was a good job, a good aid for us.
Yeah, a Gantt chart just doesn't do it for me. I need something really pretty. So thank you, Eric and Angela, on steering all this great work. I am thrilled to hear about the progress, even though I knew about the progress. I am always thrilled to hear about the progress, and I'm happy you guys were able to kind of give that kind of update to the broader group. So thank you for taking time to do that. All right. Next up on the agenda is other business not known at the time of the posting. We have to revisit the consent agenda. Okay, Mark. Was the finger
yeah.
for the consent agenda or a different finger?
No, a different finger, sorry.
Okay.
Ellen, could you come on screen, please? There she is. So I just wanted to wish Ellen Westo very good luck as she leaves MAPC at the end of this week. She's going to be at least temporarily returning to her work in the childcare and education sector. We are going to miss her here tremendously. She's done a great job, obviously taking the notes of the executive committee, but that is like 10% of what she does, maybe 5% of what she does. And more than anything else, she is just a wonderful presence in the office and a great person to have working on the team. So I wanted to thank her. I know you'll all join me in that, and wish her well as she moves on to her next challenges. Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you, Mark. It's been lovely to get to know you all very quickly, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think that's it, Erin.
Well, that's enough. I don't want any more of those kinds of announcements.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Ellen, we all wish you well. Obviously, you are welcome to kind of drop your comments in the chat. But I think I can kind of speak for everyone when I say, we're really happy for you, and thank you for your contributions in your tenure at MAPC. So thank you. Okay, enough sadness. Let's go back to the consent agenda. Mark, because we don't need a motion at this point, do we, to accept, or we do need a motion?
Maybe it would be good if someone just moved the consent agenda.
Okay.
I
am
move
going
the consent
to,
agenda.
Thank you, Mo. Mo is going to
Second.
Who made that second? Imai. Okay, great. Thank you. So the motion is made by Mo, seconded by Imai, to move the consent agenda for approval. Maybe next month I'll get this down. All right. Everyone come off mute, please. Roll call is required.
We should,
Here we
Erin,
go.
if we could, I think
Yes.
we should just remind people that in this case, the consent agenda is adoption of the November minutes and adoption of the treasurer's report.
Yeah, thank you. I was thinking of that before you made that announcement, but thank you. Yes, that is what the consent agenda is that we are voting on. All right, everyone off mute. Here we go. Imai.
Aye.
Colette.
Aye.
Kurt.
Aye.
Keith.
Aye.
Karen absent. Jen.
Aye.
Tom. Daniel.
Aye.
John. Tom G. Mo.
Aye.
Sagoon. Jared. It's okay if I. Tabor.
Aye.
Excuse me. Angie.
Aye.
Gina. Steve Olenoff.
Aye.
Courtney. Vandana.
Aye. And also Jared had an eye in the chat.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Claire.
Aye.
Sam.
Aye.
Steve Silvera.
Aye.
Juan. Elaine. Erin. Aye. And with that, the consent agenda of the minutes and the treasurer's report passes unanimously. Thank you so much for that. Is there Lizzie and Mark? Oh no, Mark, do you have something
The
else?
only thing I would say is I'm sorry, I dropped the ball on this President Aaron. The neat trick with the consent agenda is to add adjournment to it, which I neglected to do. We'll remember next time to do it, but for this month, we're going to have a separate roll call to adjourn.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. I feel very out of practice right now. That's gonna be my resolution. I'm gonna get back into this. February will be better for sure. All right, and with that, because we didn't add it to the consent agenda, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion made by Mo. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, second made by Tabor. Thank you very much. Everyone come off mute. Here we go. Imai.
Aye.
Colette.
Aye.
Kurt.
Aye.
Keith.
Aye.
Karen. Jen.
Aye.
Tom D.
Aye.
John. Thomas. Mo.
Aye.
Sagoon. Jared. Tabor.
Aye.
Angie.
Aye.
Gina. Steve O.
Aye.
Courtney. Vandana.
Aye.
Claire.
Aye.
Sam.
Aye.
Steve Silvera.
Aye.
Juan. Elaine. Aaron. Aye. And with Jared's aye in the chat, that is a unanimous adjournment vote. The meeting is adjourned at 12:46 p.m. I hope everyone has a great rest of your day and week, and we will see you next month. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Aye.